In Moon Called by Patricia Briggs, we follow Mercedes Mercy Thompson, a tough, no-nonsense mechanic living in Washington. She also happens to be a shapeshifter who can turn into a coyote. When a young werewolf shows up at her garage needing help, Mercy gets pulled into a world of supernatural politics and danger. The local werewolf Alpha is attacked, his daughter is kidnapped, and Mercy must team up with vampires, fae, and other werewolves to get to the bottom of it. As secrets unravel and threats close in, she proves she's much more than just a mechanic. She's a fierce protector and a survivor in a dangerous world. I really have a soft spot for Moon Called because Moon Called was the first urban fantasy book that I read. I read the first book, Moon Called, in 2007. This is way, way back. I can even show you the receipt of the book I bought when Fiction Wise was still a thing, and I was still reading books on my Palm Pilot. This is the book I got to read, one of the books I got on Fiction Wise, Moon Called. Before Moon Called, I definitely read fantasy, but all the fantasy I read were classics or they were stories about fantastical characters, and the narrative of the book was in the past. This was the first book I read that had fantasy characters, and it was set in a modern day world with modern day things going on. Ever since Moon Called, I've been a big fan of urban fantasy. I've been a big fan of female protagonists. I read this, the first book, in 2007. I am currently on book 12. This is one of the few books where I kind of jump back and forth between audiobook and written book, just because the audiobook, the narrator is really good, but then I have a history with the written book too. So really just kind of how I'm feeling, I'll jump back and forth. But I feel like this was a really good urban fantasy and a really early version of post 21st century urban fantasy books that are kind of set in worlds that have phones and TVs and the internet and stuff like that. Now, I should note, I had read some books prior to this that were not really fiction books, but I had been a fan, and I've mentioned this, of the game called Shadowrun, which is absolutely urban fantasy. But up until reading this book, I had really been into kind of the role-playing side of Shadowrun, and I had read some short stories that were urban fantasy, but I really thought of it more as me growing my knowledge of the role-playing game and the world system of the role-playing game. At that time, I wasn't just kind of sitting down saying, hey, look, I want to read Shadowrun strictly for its fiction, which I do now. I don't play the game anymore, haven't in years, but I still read those Shadowrun fiction books because I really like that world. And if you're into urban fantasy, I would always recommend the Shadowrun books. But the strongest recommendation I can give for Moon Called by Patricia Briggs is I've been reading the Mercedes Mercy Thompson series for the past 18 years and enjoying every single book.